The Where Our Minds Wander podcast may contain sensitive content and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow wanderers, to the places our minds wander.
The house at the end of the dirt road, where disembodied voices whisper and strange sounds make the living shiver.
Where shadows lurk at the edge of the woods, just outside your back door. And mysterious lights speed beyond reason across the clear night sky.
Odd events throughout time that lead you down the rabbit hole.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Where Our Minds Wander. Hello and welcome to Where Our Minds Wander, all you fellow wanderers. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody.
Well, it looks like our cool spell is over with. It was nice and windy and in the 70s last week. And once again, the last 2 days, it's in the 80s. Humid and hot as all hell out there. And as I sit here and look across at Beth, she's all sweaty and hot. And I don't think it's for all the right reasons. It's not like she's checking me out, my manly physique sitting here. I think she's just all sweaty from how humid it is here in the podcast room.
I think that's probably it, honey.
Yeah, kind of sucks, but that's the way it turns out.
Just wait 20 minutes till we're halfway through if you want to really see sweaty and icky.
Yeah, well, we might have to move some of the electrical surge protectors because I think you're going to drip all over the floor. You might short us out. We might not be able to finish this episode.
You're so mean to me.
I'll have to put my feet up. Be like an inch of water on the floor.
Why are you so mean?
I'm not. It's just an observation.
Gotcha.
And, I like to be prepared for any upcoming disasters.
Right.
And, this could be helpful.
It could. It sounds like you are in dire, circumstances here.
Well, without any further ado, and we don't have any power outages because of my wife's sweat, I guess we should probably get into tonight's episode. It's a pretty good one.
I guess so.
See, if you were like me, you could take your shirt off. I mean, you could, but I don't know if I could get through my sentences. Might be rather difficult.
Now that you've painted such a lovely picture of your adoring and loving wife, maybe we should get into tonight's story, because I'm really excited about it. It's a great mystery. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. I just said it was going to be a good show tonight. They're all good, but this one is a really good mystery.
My glasses are fogging up.
Oh, yeah. They are.
I need little wipers.
That's a bit disturbing.
They need to invent eyeglass wipers that will defog eyeglasses. I can't stop breathing, and that's what's causing it.
Maybe if we did something to make some money off the podcast, we could get like not a fluffer. That's something entirely different. Somebody just come in and wipe off your glasses and your forehead for you.
A wiper.
Yeah, a wiper.
Imagine taking that ad. Oh my gosh. See how flustered I am. Imagine taking that ad out on Craigslist or the local paper. Wiper needed.
Well, you could probably use both.
Once a week for 45 minutes. Enclosed space. No talking.
Oh, I bet you'd get a lot of responses. All right. Sit back, get comfy, and Beth's going to start us off.
Yes, and you're going to continue because we are doing the same story tonight. There's that much stuff.
I know. I read ahead.
I'm letting everybody...
And since I didn't write a story this week, I kind of knew it was going to be one story.
I know, but I'm telling everybody. I'm preparing people listening to us.
I think when they read the episode title, Our listeners are smart. They'll pick up on that.
I think the heat is making you mean.
I just made you a potato salad. How is that mean? And I cooked you a full-course dinner.
It was a delicious dinner.
I know, I cooked it.
Jeez Louise. I'm going to get started.
Yeah, you go right ahead.
Westall Secondary College, which is located in Clayton South, Victoria, is a co-educational high school for students in grades 7 through 12. Their website is actually really impressive, and frankly, I think I would actually really like to be a student there if, I was 40 years younger and lived in Australia.
Yeah, at least 40 years younger.
I want you to leave that in when you edit. I want you to leave that sigh in, please.
You're thinking I'm going to get all this hate from all of our women listeners.
The school takes great pride in their Westall way, which includes rigorous academics, of course, but also well-being strategies and giving students a voice and a strong sense of responsibility. Their educational system is a little different than ours here in the U.S., at least as far as what things are called. For example, grades 7 and 8 are called junior school, grades 9 and 10 are called middle school, and grades 11 and 12 are senior school. And I found this really cool. Like something out of Harry Potter, the school has 4 houses named after poets or writers: Patterson, Lawson, Dennis, and Gordon. Each student is assigned a house in 7th grade, and these houses will compete throughout the year in fun ways, like sports competitions, contests, that sort of thing.
That does sound like a pretty cool school.
I know.
Oh, God, I wish I could go back 50 years.
At least. So, in a way, we kind of do that around here in a smaller way. For example, teacher teams in some of the middle schools around here give themselves team names like Team Perseverance or Team Tenacity, but the house idea it seems really cool. Anyway, the reason that I'm telling all of you about Westall Secondary College is because in April of this year, it was a rather unusual 60th anniversary for the school. And maybe some of you even saw something about it recently in the paranormal world. In 1966, Westall Secondary College, which then was known just as Westall High School, was the site of the largest UFO sighting in Australia's history, which, interestingly, predates both the Broadhaven School and the Ariel School sightings. It has since been known as the Westall Incident. In 1966, the school was bordered by open fields and a patch of bushland. Bushland?
What are you asking me for? You're the scholar of the family.
Well, that's not saying much, since I don't know if it's bushland or bushland.
Bushland. Or bushland. Either or is correct.
Okay, well, it was affectionately known as the Grange. The Grange was a popular spot for students to go if they wanted a little privacy. Right next door to the high school was the Westall Primary School. Combined, there were about 300 students and staff on campus on any given day. April 6th was a normal school day. It was right before lunch, and teacher Claude Miller was taking a tea break before having recess duty. Most students were still in class, but a few were already playing outside. According to abcnet.au, 13-year-old Tanya Vassie was outside playing when she noticed a, quote, strange, rounded, 2-story disc floating up above, end quote. She watched it fly erratically at high speeds, quickly changing directions. Totally alarmed, she ran into the school and sped down the hallways shouting, quote, flying saucer, flying saucer. In their classrooms, both students and teachers shook their heads and laughed. And then recess began. As hundreds of students and adults on recess duty poured outside, their earlier amusement turned into disbelieving shock. There was, in fact, a UFO in the sky above their school. Ken Stollard, one of the students who later became principal, remembers that what he saw was, quote, large, easily visible, circular, silver, end quote. He insists that he saw what he saw, and so did all of his friends. It was, quote, unidentified, it was flying, and it was clearly an object, end quote. Former school nurse Marilyn Smith said that the craft didn't have any windows and that it was an oval shape about the size of 2 or 3 cars. Former student Joy Clark said that it moved at incredible speeds and was, quote, shiny, metallic, with a dome in the middle, end quote. Other reports, according to the State Library of Victoria, called it a dazzling silvery object or objects. One was larger than the others, and it was round with a hump on top and round things underneath. The craft appeared to thicken sometimes when it turned a little to show its underside. One student, Colin Kelly, remembered seeing not one craft, but 3. There was one large one flanked by 2 smaller ones. He said, quote, they just elevated while on their sides and disappeared at an ungodly speed. They were faster than any aircraft of the common day, end quote. As the students and staff stared up in amazement, the craft flew off towards the Grange and disappeared. A group of students, including Terry Peck, hopped the school fence and ran towards the Grange to see where it had gone. She said, quote, there was this strange thing just sitting there, hovering above the ground, quite big, about 1.5 times the size of a large sedan. She said she could feel the heat coming from it, and the air was filled with a buzzing sound. As they stood there, the UFO slowly rose into the air again, and then, quote, turned on its side, and it just went straight up in the air, so fast it was almost instantaneous, end quote. The grass, where it had landed, was now a yellow swirl, as if it had baked too long in the hot sun. Back at the school, everyone was incredibly excited. Allegedly, one student was so overwhelmed that she collapsed and was taken away by ambulance. Claude Miller, the teacher who was taking a tea break, came out of the lounge to complete chaos. He was approached by fellow science teacher Andrew Greenwood, who kept asking Claude if he had seen it for himself. Greenwood told Claude that the craft had accelerated at unimaginable speeds, vertically, disappeared from one spot, turned up in another spot, changed direction, dropped and faded to nothing, then appeared somewhere else. And then there were the airplanes. not long after the craft or crafts were first seen, the students and staff reported seeing 5 light aircraft, which were possibly Cessnas, chasing after the UFOs.
A Cessna chasing after a UFO. That's hilarious.
I know. The planes circled, banked quickly, and flew erratically to try and keep up. The weird thing was, they didn't appear to be military aircraft, even though the military showed up on the ground. In fact, within 30 minutes, men in uniform showed up around the school. News crews showed up. And men in dark suits. One might say they were men in black. According to abc.net.au and Adelon.com, the school headmaster called everyone into an assembly where he informed everyone that there was no such thing as flying saucers. What they had all seen was simply, come on, all you wanderers, say it with me. What did they all see? A weather balloon.
I mean, are you kidding me? A weather balloon? So, it wasn't just witnessed by these young children. It was witnessed by all these adults and a science teacher of all things, if that makes it any better.
Right.
I mean, it hovered. It traveled at incredible speeds. It's your typical UFO when you think of people describing them.
Yes, and all the pictures that the children drew afterwards all look like UFOs, not weather balloons.
Yeah, this is a mass sighting.
Yes. So, after the headmaster told all of them that there was no such thing as UFOs and that it was a weather balloon, he went on to say that none of them were to tell anybody what they had seen. And if they did, they would be severely punished. Staff were warned that if they talked about it, they'd lose their jobs.
What an asshole.
Well, imagine telling 200 students that they couldn't go home and tell their parents that they had seen a weather balloon.
I don't know. If I was a parent, I think I'd go in.
Well, they wouldn't.
Give them a little talk to because they threatened my kid.
But if the kids never said anything about it, how would the parents even know that they were threatened not to say anything about it?
Well, I'm sure the news probably had a little bit of knowledge of all this.
Well, that's true. That's very true. And then, after being told that they weren't allowed to talk about it, some of the students were even pulled into private meetings with the dark-suited men, like Tanya Vassie, who, remember, was only 13 years old at the time. The men in black told her specifically that all she had seen was a weather balloon. But when she disagreed with them a little bit, they told her to keep her mouth shut. They made such an impression on her that Tanya didn't even dare tell her own mother. She said, quote, "I kept my word to the point where I did not discuss it with my mother. I did not discuss it with anybody," end quote.
Where do they get the gumption that they could bring a minor in and not have a parent present?
Because it was 1966.
That's just mind-boggling.
I know. Student Joy Clark and school nurse Marilyn Smith were not so intimidated. Both of them walked out of the school at the end of the day to an awaiting Channel 9 news team, and they willingly spoke about what they'd seen. Now, I looked for that original news coverage online, but unfortunately, I could not find it anywhere. In the middle of the interview, in which a few other students joined and reenacted what had happened, a police officer told the news crew to stop filming immediately and leave. Joy was given detention. Science teacher Andrew Greenwood also took a chance and was interviewed by the Dandenong Journal. He specifically addressed his confusion over being told it was a weather balloon and then being threatened with legal action if he talked about it. He said, quote, "I was told that I would be prosecuted and that I had to keep quiet about it. Why did I have to keep quiet?" End quote.
Well, here's the thing. I don't understand, if they wanted to pass it off as a weather balloon, why didn't they just say, okay, it was a weather balloon and believe what you want, that's what it was, and then don't intimidate anybody, don't make a big deal about it, don't bring in the men in black or police officers, just let it die.
Right.
But when you create this kind of atmosphere for yourself, I mean, of course people are going to think something really went on.
Yes.
Even though maybe it didn't, but it did in this particular situation. But this is one of those cases where this just seems like it's a true UFO sighting. There's no doubt about it.
Yes. So newspaper headlines said things like, "Saucer mystery, school silent. What was it?" In that particular article, the paper asks for witnesses to come forward, since the school refused to talk about it. In fact, the school never issued any sort of formal statement whatsoever. Another headline asks, "Flying saucer mystery deepens. Who were 5 pilots?" The article, which I couldn't read in its entirety, unfortunately, began with this quote: "The unidentified flying object reported over the Clayton area on April 6 was almost certainly observed by the pilots of several light aircraft, which flew close to and chased object for a considerable time." End quote. I certainly hope the 5 pilots that were chasing the UFO saw what they were chasing.
That is pretty strange.
The section of article that is freely visible concluded with this: "These facts have been uncovered by journal reporters in their efforts to penetrate the wall of secrecy which was hastily thrown up after the sighting by students and staff at the Westall School." End quote. Now, the phrasing of that was really interesting to me because it implies that the students and the staff were choosing to go silent, when the truth was they were being forced into silence. Interestingly, the Westall School's student publication, the Clayton Calendar, did publish a 2-page anonymous report of the entire incident. First, the cover of that particular issue is pretty amusing. It depicts 3 classic flying saucers flying near some trees with a small building, presumably a school, in the background. A caption at the top of the drawing reads, quote, "As I was saying, children, flying saucers do not exist."
That's hilarious.
Now, the journal itself, the Clayton Calendar, doesn't exist digitally online, but the article from that issue was picked up and reprinted in the June 1966 issue of the Australian Flying Saucer. You can read the article if you'd like, if you go to the State Library Victoria website and request it. However, you have to wait at least 3 days before they will grant you access to it. I tried, but The whole website thing was weird to me, that you had to request to be able to read it digitally, and it was going to take several days before they would let you. But anyway.
Yeah, how does that make any sense?
I don't know, but the link is in our show notes if any of you are interested. What I could access easily was Judith McGee's editor's note that accompanied the reprint of the article. In a nutshell, she said that the article was written by a male student and that she had a few details to add. For example, the headmaster stated that several organizations had investigated the sighting, including the Air Force and the Victorian Flying Saucer Research Society. She went on to say that, quote, perhaps this accounted for the antagonistic attitude when we made our inquiries, and for the detaining of some of the children after school for having spoken to the press. End quote. The Westall Incident, as it was now known, was even covered in the Melbourne papers, although they speculated that it was merely a weather balloon, since the Weather Bureau released a balloon at Laverton at 8:30 a.m. that day, and the westerly wind may have blown it off course.
So, I figured since officials and the newspapers kept telling everyone that it was a weather balloon, that I'd look at that possibility. And I have to say, it's pretty interesting, but we'll get into that after this quick break.
Hey, did you know? Nomophobia is the fear of being without your smartphone. For many people, the anxiety of being detached from your phone or not having cell service is real. The condition, nomophobia, stands for no mobile phone phobia and can cause such symptoms as sweating, shaking, agitation, and even breathing difficulties. Research has shown nomophobia can affect up to 73% of people. Who'd have thunk it?
All right, all you fellow wanderers, we are back from the break, and I'm picking up where we left off, starting with the possibility that what the Westall students and staff really saw was a weather balloon. So highball, or high-altitude balloons, were being launched from Mildura Airport beginning in 1960. They were part of a program run by the Australian Department of Supply and the United States Atomic Energy Commission. Their purpose was to sample radioactive debris and dust in the upper atmosphere after nuclear tests. Now, the nuclear tests were being done by the U.S. over the Pacific Ocean and by the British at Marlingia since 1949. The Australian government established the ABLS, or Australian Balloon Launching Station at Mildura Airport in 1960. The general public were not aware of the program because it was classified as a Cold War secret. I want to mention two details that I think are kind of key, and I'll come back to later. First, the wind patterns are constant for Mildura, westerly between September and March, and then easterly between April and August. Second, the balloons were followed by a Piper Aztec plane, equipped with a radio command system so that they could notify recovery teams when to pick up the payloads after the balloons came down. The balloons themselves could be as big as 328 feet in diameter and carried around 450 pounds of equipment. they reached an altitude between 40,000 and 135,000 feet. A typical flight could last anywhere from 20 minutes to 4 hours. They can travel at speeds from 10 to over 100 miles per hour, depending on the wind. So, let's look at some details from the Westall Incident. Several witnesses claim the UFO landed in the Grange and then took off again at an incredible speed. But that seems a bit odd because once a highball balloon lands, they cannot simply take off again. It's just not possible. Another detail is the ring of yellowed grass the UFO was said to have left behind once it took off. Well, that's strange also because a highball does not contain any sort of heat source and is incapable of scorching grass. But let's ignore those two things and keep going with the possibility. The official Australian stratospheric balloon launch website that I looked at specifically mentioned the constant prevailing winds, and that for most of the year, the winds blow towards the west, but in April, they blew towards the east. They specifically say that that's why the Madeira airport was such a prime location for launching balloons. They rarely, if ever, blew off course. Clayton, where the Westall School is located, is south of Madeira Airport, 566 kilometers, or close to 360 miles south of Madeira. Now, I suppose it could be possible that a balloon was blown dramatically off course.
It would have to be very dramatically, wouldn't it? If the prevailing winds went east to west and this was 362 miles south?
Right, you got it.
Okay.
But you really don't know, so you kind of have to put that caveat in.
Right.
I mean, there's always a possibility, right?
Right.
Well, then there's the airplanes. The website says that during the 1960s, each highball was tracked by one Piper Aztec plane. But let's say that these three balloons had drifted off course and traveled 362 miles in the wrong direction, since the Westall witnesses said that there were three craft. That would mean they would have been tracked by three Piper Aztec airplanes. And yet, witnesses claim that there were 5 Cessna airplanes trying desperately to keep up with the unidentified aircraft. Piper Aztecs and Cessnas do not look anything alike. But let's say witnesses weren't well educated in identifying different types of aircraft, and that they were Piper Aztecs. According to witnesses, the 5 airplanes were struggling to keep up with the UFOs and were outmaneuvered. Highball balloons are known for a, quote, very smooth, vibration-free ride. They only change speed if they drop into a lower altitude. So, with the given information that we have, what we know about the highball balloons, it really doesn't quite all add up, does it?
Not very well.
Especially since not a single person has ever come forward and said that they were one of the 5 pilots. But with that said, I'm not quite done yet, especially since the Stratospherical Balloon website has such an excellent database that it lists all the Madeira airport launches. There was a launch on April 5th, 1966, the day before the Westall Incident. The balloon reached an altitude of about 88,600 feet. But here's the really interesting part. It says the flight was terminated the same day. So then I made sure I knew the definition of terminated in relation to this data chart, because I wanted to make sure that terminated didn't mean that it had been blown off course and was lost. Turns out, terminated means that either the command center on the Piper Aztec airplane or the balloon's automated system intentionally cut, popped, or deflated the balloon in order to bring it down for retrieval. The next question, of course, is whether they retrieved it. Well, while doing a deep delve into the available info, it turns out that there is no further data for that particular balloon.
Of course not. How frustrating is that?
There's always something to throw a wrench into the system, right?
Right.
So let's say that a highball balloon did go rogue on April 5th. It flew 360 miles off course, was followed by possibly 2 additional unrecorded balloons, arrived over Westall School the next day around noon, flew erratically, and was chased unsuccessfully by 5 Cessnas. Then one of the balloons landed in a field, scorched the grass, then took off again all by itself. Right. So can we just all agree that what people saw at Westall was not a friggin' weather balloon?
Yes, we can.
Another theory was that the students and staff at Westall saw some sort of experimental military aircraft. In 1966, there was a facility about 15 kilometers away in Fisherman's Bend that could have been testing something. The Aeronautical Research Laboratories, or ARL, was working on various projects. They're known for developing some early black box technology. But there was also the Government Aircraft Factories, or GAF, nearby. And then at RAAF, Laverton Point Cook, there were some test flights happening. So maybe the military was the culprit. Except to this day, the Royal Australian Air Force has denied having anything to do with it. Now, I guess I should just stop right there and say, look, we have things that people mistake probably for triangular UFOs. I mean, we know we have the stealth bombers and various other stealth technology that's out there that does look similar to a lot of the UFOs that are described as triangular. But we have absolutely nothing that looks like a frickin' saucer with a bump on the top right out of X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that kind of technology.
Right.
If we did, we wouldn't mind going to war with anyone on the face of the earth.
Right. And all of those people that saw it 60 years ago would now recognize that that's what they saw.
Right. Think how that would have changed the face of warfare. Because we would have unveiled it.
Right.
And I know I said it already, but none of the 5 light aircraft pilots have ever come forward. In fact, there were no flight records from that day of any planes flying in the area. But let's just go with the military theory for a second anyway, and say maybe it was a military experiment. The craft obviously outflew anything people had ever seen before in their lives. So, if they were that good, how come they don't exist as military aircraft today? It's been 60 friggin' years. If they were that good, then you'd think we'd be pretty used to them flying around the skies by now.
Right.
And that was a common theme back in April of this year, as the 60th anniversary of the Westall Incident arrived. Dozens of witnesses just want to know for sure, was it actually a rogue weather balloon, or was it a military exercise? According to the ABC article that Beth had mentioned earlier, Tanya Vassi still wonders why. If it was a weather balloon, no one to this day has come out and confirmed it. Another theory, and it's one that really makes my blood boil every time that I hear it used, is that it was simply a case of mass hysteria. Well, 21 years ago in 2005, former teacher Shane Ryan decided he was going to try and get to the bottom of it all. He tracked down and interviewed 339 witnesses, 142 people who saw the objects in the sky, and 197 people who saw the scorch marks. Of those 339 people, 75 of them say that they saw both. Through his research, he discovered that an engineer named James Kibble was sitting in his backyard on April 2nd in 1966 when he saw a bright flash of light in the sky. It was followed by the appearance of some sort of silver disc, which he managed to take a Polaroid picture of, which I find is pretty cool.
It is a really cool picture.
His photo actually ran in the local papers and was dubbed the mushroom due to its resemblance to, well, a mushroom. Apparently, Kibble was in his garden when it seemed to fill with reflected light, as if a giant mirror was in the sky. When he looked up, he saw the dome-shaped craft flying overhead. It turned on its side and flew off at an incredible speed. The photo didn't hit the papers until December of 1966, a full 8 months after the Westall incident. Although, to be clear, Kibble said the encounter happened just 4 days before the Westall incident. But due to the timing, there's no way his photo caused mass hysteria at the school. Shane Ryan also spoke with Paul Smith, who was 16 years old in 1966 and working at a market garden on April 6. At one point, he straightened up because his back was aching, and he was totally caught off guard by something in the sky. He knew that it couldn't be an airplane because it was just hovering above the power lines. He watched it as he continued to work. Paul Smith wasn't at the school. He was at work. So it wouldn't really be fair to say that he was caught up in some mass hysteria event if he wasn't even part of the masses that day.
It's in the definition.
Exactly. So what really happened? I mean, I guess that's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
That's really all witnesses of the Westall incident want to know. If it was truly a weather balloon, then they just want confirmation of that. If it was a military experiment, then they just want some sort of documentation that proves it. And as of now, it seems as though not a single piece of documentation pertaining to that day exists. Which...
It's incredible because if all of those...
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and if all of those organizations, the police, the Air Force, all of these organizations...
Oh, it's documented.
They all showed up.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just not for public view.
Yeah.
They're going to deny everything.
Yeah.
Because this, in my opinion, was truly a documented case. These witnesses saw a UFO.
Maybe even 3 of them.
Perhaps so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a skeptic myself on a lot of things. I try to debunk everything. And I'm open-minded, but I'm not stupid.
Right.
And I imagine there's a lot of our listeners that are like, well, yeah, I believe in cryptids, but I don't believe in UFOs. Or I believe in UFOs and I don't believe in cryptids. But when you have a mass sighting of something that, just doesn't belong in our atmosphere, and there's no way that we have this technology, there's just no way. Then you kind of got to go, with the conclusion that, yeah, this was an otherworldly visitor.
Yeah.
Or an other dimensional visitor.
Right. And I mean, I know I've already said it once, but I just keep coming back to if it really was military and it was working as well as it was, you would think that we would be using them now, 60 years later.
Right. And I have never seen anything in the sky, and I don't think our military has anything that resembles a UFO. Now, remember, back in the 50s, 60s, they did try to create these aircraft that did look like your typical UFO.
Flying saucer.
Flying saucer.
Yeah.
But they didn't get any more than 4 or 5 feet off the ground.
Right.
It we just don't have that kind of propulsion system for something like that.
Right. And the witnesses were even saying that they were tipping on their sides.
Yeah.
And flying off. Yeah.
They're more or less like a hovercraft.
Right.
Basically, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel for these people because it's got to be super frustrating to know what you saw and know a lot of other people saw it too. And everybody's denying that it just can't possibly be.
Right.
And that there's no documentation of it.
Right.
I mean, does our government really think we're that stupid? I mean, if you tell people enough that didn't happen, are they really going to? I guess it does make them second guess themselves. I'd be like, I know what I saw.
Right.
Screw you.
Right.
I want an explanation.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting case for sure. And it was one that I hadn't heard of. I'd heard of Broadhaven and the aerial school, but this one was brand new to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't get the government. You know, are they trying to make people feel crazy so that they can push the Prozac and all their pharmaceuticals on them?
Well,
Are the pharmaceutical companies going in hand with, these government entities?
Well, that might be the case here.
It's a new conspiracy theory.
I know.
Pharmaceutical companies are in bed with the U.S. military. And they're making people feel crazy and then pushing Prozac down their throat.
Honey, I don't want to interrupt you because you're on a roll, but we're talking about Australia.
So their government's any different than ours?
Okay, I don't know.
They're all fucked. They all lie to their people.
Oh, boy. When we start hearing clicking sounds on our phones mid-call, or we'll know.
Maybe the men in black will come pay us a visit, and I can ask them about the Westall incident.
Yeah.
So look, by the way, while you're here, tell me the truth.
Tell me everything you know.
And I'll tell you what I know. Yeah. We'll swap secrets. They might go for it.
I know. I'm intrigued what secrets you think you have that would be worth swapping.
They don't know what I have.
I don't either.
I just put my poker face on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, if you would like to know more about the Westall incident, you can always check our sources in our show notes. And maybe some of you will be willing to request the copy of that article that you have to wait 3 days to be approved for, and then let us know what it's all about.
That is pretty sad, isn't it?
It's really weird.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Anyway.
Who knows? Join us again next week for an all-new episode of Where Our Minds Wander.
See you soon. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to traveling with you again to the places where our minds wander.
If you like what you heard, please take a moment and provide us with a 5-star rating and a comment on your favorite listening platform. It really helps us move up the list and become more visible on the podcast charts so new people can find us.
And thank you all for your continued support.
See you next week for an all-new episode.